She left for book club with a novel I'd never seen and eyes I hadn't seen in months. She smiled as she zipped the novel into her bag, a bright, effortless smile I used to chase. "Don't wait up," she said, almost singing. I didn't. But when she came home, there was no book. Just lavender perfume and wine on her breath. The kind of glow stories don't give you. I used to know that look. Back when she looked at me that way. Before the silences, the excuses, the way her phone never left her hand. Before she started double-checking the locks like she was guarding something inside or someone outside. That night, I sat in the kitchen longer than I meant to. Just me, the soft hum of the refrigerator, and the lie she thought she'd hidden well enough. The bag she brought in was lighter than when she left. The book was gone. No discussion. No apology. No mention. But she was glowing. Not the tired kind of glow you get from a good story and a warm drink. No, this was something electric. Something fed. Her hair tousled in a way that didn't come from rain or wind, but fingers. Her perfume wasn't her usual vanilla, it was lavender. Something softer. More intimate. Not for public spaces. And there was wine on her breath, though she claimed her book club only served tea. She laughed more that night. At nothing. A random joke on the television, a flicker of memory she didn't share. And for the first time in months, I heard her hum in the shower. She was happy. And I wasn't part of the reason. That should have comforted me. After all, don't we all want our partner to be happy? Isn't that what love is, putting someone else's joy above your own? But her joy felt like a stranger walking into her home without knocking. It didn't belong here. Not anymore. The next morning, she was radiant. That's the word that stuck in my mind, radiant. She moved through the kitchen like a woman in love. Not with me, but with someone. Or something. Her toast burned and she didn't even flinch. She hummed the same melody she used to hum on our honeymoon, except this time her smile curved at the corners in a way that wasn't for me. That smile used to be mine, and I didn't even know how I lost it. She wore earrings. Not the studs she usually wore on errands. These were longer. Delicate. The kind that brushed your neck just enough to draw attention. I asked if she had plans. She said she might meet the girls again tonight. Book club was planning another session. It's a new series, she said. I'm hooked. But when I picked up the novel from the coffee table after she left, it was untouched. A crisp spine. Pages so stiff they hadn't even been thumbed through. And that's when I knew. She wasn't reading stories. She was living one. And I wasn't part of it. The truth doesn't shout, it sits quietly on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower when I noticed it. The house was quiet, save for the water humming through old pipes and that faint, off-key tune she always sang when she thought I couldn't hear. I remember thinking it sounded too light, too unbothered. That's when my eyes caught the slip of paper curled like a dying leaf near the fruit bowl, a faded receipt, damp at the edges, barely clinging to the marble countertop. It shouldn't have meant anything. Just paper. But I stared at it like it had fangs. 2 glasses of wine. 1 charcuterie board. A jazz bar I recognized. Not a bookstore. Not a cafe. Not even somewhere we went. It was that place off Franklin, dim lighting, no menus on the tables, where the waiters speak in hushes and everything smells like candle wax and secrets. I flipped it over like a puzzle, praying for a mistake. The date matched. So did the hour. Wednesday. Her book club. That was the night she wore heels. That was the night she came home glowing. I sat with it, letting the receipt wrinkle in my palm, trying to will the ink to smudge, the numbers to blur into something forgivable. I thought about how she never orders wine when we go out. Said it gave her headaches. But 2 glasses here. Red, according to the print. I pictured her, laughing across the table. That same laugh she used to save for me when we still had inside jokes, when everything she said wasn't pre-chewed and careful. There was a time she used to leave me little notes on receipts. I love you more than dessert. Stop working late, come find me. Now the ink says different things. Now it tells me there's someone else pulling her into light. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I slipped the receipt into the drawer with the warranties and spare keys. A tune for forgotten truths. She came downstairs 20 minutes later, wrapped in steam and lavender. Hair damp. Skin glowing. She smiled like nothing had shifted. Maybe it hadn't for her. For me, something tilted. Something cracked. It's a strange thing how quiet betrayal begins. Not with shouting. Not even with lies. Just a receipt. Sitting quietly on the counter. And a silence too loud to ignore. I asked about the story. She quoted the cover. How was book club? I asked like it mattered. She beamed, sliding her coat off with a kind of practiced ease, the kind that said I've done nothing wrong even before being questioned. Her eyes lit up, too bright, like theater lights in an empty room. "Oh, it was so good," she said, practically bouncing as she kicked off her shoes. "The story just pulled me in. I waited. Not for the truth, I'd stopped expecting that. Just for the performance." She launched into it like she was reciting from a script. It's about a woman who moves to a new city and finds herself again. Very empowering. There's a mysterious neighbor and it's written like a journal. Super unique. I blinked slowly. Because I knew the book. I'd read it last year on a long flight when she slept on my shoulder the entire time. The kind of book that makes you feel like you're trespassing on someone's private thoughts. It wasn't just empowering, it was messy. The neighbor wasn't mysterious, he was manipulative. The journal wasn't charming, it was painful. Real. Ugly. What she described wasn't a story. It was a blurb. The backflap version. The kind you skim in a store before putting the book back on the shelf and deciding you've already figured it out. She hadn't read it. Not even the first page. But someone had told her what to say. Someone gave her the bullet points. The highlights. A line or two to make it sound real. And she thought that would be enough. I smiled. A weak one. Said something bland, sounds interesting, and excused myself to start dinner. Because anything else would have led to a silence she'd tried too hard to fill. And I didn't want to see her scramble. I didn't want to watch her twist herself into a version of honesty that was safe and rehearsed. It wasn't about the book. It was about the lie. The small, avoidable, deliberate lie. The kind of lie you tell when you've already invested too much in the alternative. That night, I set the table for two, and as we ate, she talked about the next book, a title she hadn't bothered to learn from an author I knew didn't write fiction. I nodded, said nothing. It was easier than asking who she sat beside. I didn't confront her. I created someone else, someone who could watch. There's a kind of power in invisibility. No name, no face. Just a username pulled from a stranger's obituary and a stock image of a mountain lake as a profile picture. No one checks twice. People only notice when you want to be seen. I didn't want to be seen. I just wanted to watch. It started with the bar's story highlights, that place from the receipt. Low lighting, soft jazz, the kind of curated intimacy that makes everything feel like it matters more than it does. They posted every night, candids of couples swaying, drinks catching the glow of Edison bulbs, waiters moving like shadows. At first, I told myself it was curiosity. Just checking. But it wasn't. It was hunger. And then I saw it. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was laughing, that same full, head-thrown-back kind of laugh she used to save for slow Sunday mornings in our kitchen. And beside her, blurry but unmistakable, was a man's shoulder. His sleeve brushing hers. His hand on the table, close enough to hers that it wasn't accidental. He leaned in like he already knew the answer to something. There was no book in sight. Just wine. Her red lipstick on the rim. And that hand brushing his. It was a clip only a few seconds long, but I watched it until the motion blurred into stillness, until I could recite the way her hair curled over her shoulder, the exact shade of the lights on the wall behind her. Like a frame from a movie I never got cast in. She came home late that night. Said traffic was bad. Said book club ran long because they were debating the ending. She even rolled her eyes like it had tired her out. I nodded. She kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. Because it wasn't about confrontation anymore. It was about observation. It was about becoming someone who could see her clearly even when she didn't know she was being seen. There's a loneliness in silence, sure. But there's also control. With every flick of my thumb through the bar's social feed, through tagged photos and dimly lit videos, I became less of the man she once knew. I became someone else. Someone quieter. Someone whose love had eroded into curiosity. And curiosity doesn't scream. It watches. It collects. It waits. She wore the same smile. But now I knew what it meant. She said it like she always did, club night, dropping the words like keys on a familiar counter. Casual. Unbothered. A routine. I nodded like I hadn't heard the lie 100 times already. I poured her a glass of red, the one she used to call too dry. She smiled when I handed it to her. That same effortless, gliding smile, the one that used to mean thank you before it meant don't ask. She dressed like she used to. And that's how I knew. Soft lipstick. Favorite earrings. The little gold ones with the teardrop edges. She only wore them when she wanted to be noticed, not for style but for reaction. For the second glance. The slowed moment. Not for books. She didn't even take a bag this time. Just her phone and a jacket draped loosely over one arm. Don't wait up, she called. Already halfway out the door. I didn't move. I already had the bar's live stream open. It was something they started recently, ambient marketing they called it. Soft jazz piped in through muted phone speakers. flickering candlelight on low-res pixels. Occasional cheers when the band hit a groove. The camera was fixed on the stage, but every few minutes it panned. And she was there. Again. Same table. Same corner. Different man. Or maybe not. His face was still obscured, always just out of focus, like the lie had a built-in privacy setting. But his hand wasn't, resting near hers again, close but not quite touching, like they were saving something for later. She leaned forward. She laughed at something I couldn't hear, and she smiled that smile. The one she gave me the first time I told her I loved her. The one she used to use like a secret between us. Only now it wasn't mine, and I didn't feel surprised, or even angry, just still. I pressed the record button on my screen capture app, watched the red circle glow in the corner, because this wasn't about proof anymore. I already knew. It was about memory, about documenting the exact moment when I stopped being surprised, about preserving the image of the woman I once trusted, smiling under someone else's dim lights, wearing earrings for someone else's compliments, drinking wine she used to hate. The stream glitched for a second, froze on her face. I didn't blink. I just saved the video and closed the tab. The worst part wasn't what she did. It was how familiar she made it look. I didn't ask how the book was. I didn't ask if the wine was good. I didn't ask who he was. I let the silence answer everything. She walked in later than usual. Not late enough to raise alarms, just late enough to make it seem like time had slipped through her fingers, like stories and drinks and fake laughter had dragged her under. Her keys clinked against the bowl. She hummed as she kicked off her shoes. I heard her pause in the hallway, maybe expecting a voice, a question, anything. But I stayed still. She stepped into the bedroom like a woman easing back into a dream. No apologies. No explanations. Just a soft, practice kiss on my cheek routine. Like brushing teeth. Like muscle memory. Her lipstick left the faintest trace near my jaw. She said, "Good night." I said nothing. She turned away, already lost in her own thoughts, the ones I no longer had access to. I stared at the ceiling, feeling its emptiness press down harder than the blanket ever could. The worst part wasn't the lie. It was the ease. The way she moved through the room, already writing her alibi in the way she smiled. The way she laid her phone down screen first like that could still hide something. The way she didn't fumble, didn't flinch, as if this was normal. As if I was no longer worth the effort of deception. There was a time when a single sigh from me would bring her close. When my silence made her nervous. When she needed my reassurance like breath. Now, it didn't even register. She climbed into bed like she was alone. And maybe she was. Maybe I was too. I listened to the sound of her breathing slow. I watched the ceiling blur. I wondered if she was bored. If all of this, the marriage, the vows, the life we built, had dulled into wallpaper for her. Something she walked past on her way to something more exciting. Or maybe she wasn't lost at all. Maybe she just stopped pretending to be the woman I fell in love with. And maybe I stopped pretending she still was. She didn't see me anymore. She saw the couch, the sink, the man-shaped silence sitting across from her, smiling at dinners, nodding through stories, never asking what she wasn't offering. And I let it happen, because some truths don't break the silence. They are the silence. If she loved stories, I'd give her one worth remembering. I rented the room 3 blocks from the bar she thought I didn't know about. A boutique hotel, the kind with thick carpets and mood lighting, where even the mirrors seemed to whisper. Warm amber glow, low music, 2 glasses set at the edge of a small table already sweating with chilled wine. I left the curtains open just enough to let the city peek in, the skyline blinking like it knew something she didn't. The invitation was simple. A folded card slipped into her bag. Literary evening, 8 p.m. Wear something lovely. No sender. No explanation. Just the same kind of mystery she thought she'd been living in. She found it that morning. I watched her eyebrows rise, the way her fingers traced the edges like they might bloom into answers. She smiled soft, surprised. "Someone remembered I like stories," she said. I nodded. I didn't ask if she thought it was me. She said she'd bring her latest read. I smiled. She wouldn't need it. Because tonight I was the author, and the plot was about to turn. I arrived an hour early, adjusted the lighting, tested the music. One of those jazz records with just enough ache in the brass to make you feel like something's ending even if you don't know what. I placed a bookmark on the table. Not in a book, just a symbol. A page break. She arrived right on time. Red dress. Lips to match. Those same earrings. The ones she wore for him. But tonight, she wore them for a story she didn't understand. She stepped inside slowly, scanning the room like a reader scanning a first paragraph, curious, cautious, a little thrilled. "This is beautiful," she said. "Who?" "I thought you might like it," I interrupted. "Calm. Steady." My hands in my pockets. Her eyes widened, but she didn't step back. Just smiled, that careful, guilty smile she'd been perfecting for weeks. "You planned this." "I did." There was a beat of silence. She looked toward the table, toward the wine, then back to me. "I didn't know you still read with me in mind." "I always did," I said. "You just stopped writing me into the story." She looked away then, like she could find her innocence on the floorboards. I poured her a glass. She took it with fingers too steady. We talked, or at least she did. Nervous small talk. The weather. Work. A book she claimed to love but couldn't name the characters from. She thought this was a reconciliation. A romantic twist. A soft reset. But I wasn't writing that kind of ending. Halfway through her second glass, I reached for the remote. The projector clicked on. Muted jazz flickered off the walls. And the bar appeared, dim and grainy and unmistakable. Her smile didn't vanish all at once. It broke piece by piece, first at the lighting, then at the timestamp. Then at the sight of her own hand brushing his. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. I paused the video on the frame where her eyes lit up. Where she was laughing at something he said, a laugh I hadn't heard in months. "You said you wanted stories," I murmured. "I just thought it was time you saw the one you've been starring in." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For once, the silence was hers. She walked in and saw him. Not just him, her. The room was dim. Velvet curtains, jazz just loud enough to feel expensive. A single candle between us flickered like it, too, was waiting for the reveal. I asked her to meet me there, a follow-up to our book night. She hesitated, but she came. Maybe she thought it meant hope. That I was still circling the idea of forgiveness. That we might sweep the broken glass beneath a prettier table. But I wasn't interested in sweeping anything anymore. She wore navy this time. A more cautious choice. Hair down. Not curled, not undone, just undecided. She looked unsure for once. It suited her. The host led her in while I waited at the back, watching through the mirrored wall. And then it happened exactly as I'd written it. She turned the corner. And froze. He was there. He, the man from the live streams, the wine nights, the receipt. He stood by the bar like he belonged there, easy in his skin. But it wasn't just him. It was her. His girlfriend. The one with soft eyes and posture that hadn't yet been taught to flinch. The one who looked at him like she still believed. The one I had sent the video to. With a note. Just 5 words. "Thought you should know. Hey friend." My wife stopped walking. Her whole body seemed to pause like a glitch in a film reel. Her breath caught in her throat, hands trembling slightly as she realized what she was seeing. What it meant. The man she thought would stay in the shadows had been dragged into the light. And the woman she thought would never know now stood inches from the truth. The girlfriend turned. Said something sharp. The man's smile flickered. Faded. My wife took a step back, bumping into a server. She looked like she might run. I raised my glass from across the room. She turned toward me like a woman waking from a dream. Her eyes met mine, wide, wild, pleading. And for the first time in months, I saw fear. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. I smiled. Gently. Nothing cruel. Nothing loud. Just enough. To the stories we read between the lines, I said. I don't think she heard me. But she saw my lips move. And that was enough. She didn't speak. Neither did I. But everything had changed. The drive was only 10 minutes, but it felt like a decade wearing a seatbelt. She gripped the wheel like it might save her. I sat back, eyes on the road, watching the streetlights flicker across the windshield like tiny interrogations. She tried to explain. Of course she did. First, it wasn't what it looked like. Then, it just happened. And finally, the one I knew was coming. I didn't mean for it to go this far. They always say that when it's already gone further than they can control. I didn't interrupt. Not because I wanted to hear it, I didn't. But because I needed to know what she'd choose to say when silence was no longer her ally. I listened to the pacing of her breath, the way her voice cracked on the word mistake, the way she left long, aching gaps after sentences like she wanted me to fill them in for her. Like maybe I'd rewrite the story myself and make it less painful for her to hear. But I've read the story. I know how it ends. She turned down our street slowly, as if going slower might change the destination. I watched the house grow closer, the porch light still on, as if it hadn't witnessed a thing. When she parked, the engine clicked itself quiet. She turned to me finally, eyes wide, red-rimmed, searching. "I didn't know you still cared that much," she whispered. I didn't answer. Because caring isn't the point anymore. You can love someone and still choose to leave the fire burning behind them. She reached out barely, fingers twitching like a breath away from mine. "Will you come in?" The words hung there. Like bait. Like hope. I looked at the house. At the door she used to walk through like it was ours, not just hers. I thought about the couch, the bed, the bookshelf filled with unread stories, the receipts and drawers, the silence in the sheets. "I think I'll walk a bit," I said. She blinked. "Alone?" I nodded. And then I stepped out, letting the door close behind me with a soft, final click. The night air was heavy but clean. The kind of stillness that only follows something loud, like the world itself had just exhaled. Street by street, I walked beneath the trees that had once shaded our Sunday mornings. And I thought about all the words she hadn't said. The truths she didn't know how to reach for. The kind of honesty that doesn't come until it's too late. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something in me folded quietly, like a page being turned. I used to wonder how stories end. Now I know, quietly, then all at once. I didn't pack a suitcase. I didn't slam a door. I just folded back the covers in the guest room and laid down without a word. It wasn't an act of war. No theatrical ending. Just a sentence with a period at the end. Clean. Final. Honest. She didn't ask why. Didn't come to the doorway. She already knew. Somewhere between her lipstick-stained wineglass and the flicker of guilt in her laugh, we had crossed into something else. A space where explanations were background noise. Where the truth had already arrived and made itself comfortable. The bed in the guest room was colder. Stiffer. But it was mine. The silence was mine, too. I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. Not peacefully, not yet, but with weight. Like something had been lifted and replaced by something heavier, but simpler. When I came down the next morning, she was already gone. Coffee mug in the sink. Her perfume still haunting the air. And there on the kitchen table sat the novel. The one she claimed to love. The one she quoted from the back flap. The one she swore she was reading. Still unopened. The cover curled slightly from where she had bent it, probably while posing. But the pages were untouched. No dog ears. No highlights. No scribbled notes in the margins like she used to do when something made her feel too much. I didn't move it. Didn't touch it. Some stories aren't worth finishing. She had written hers in secrets and half-truths. I had written mine in silence and observation. But now finally I was ready to start a different kind of narrative, one where I wasn't a footnote or a placeholder or a backdrop. Where I wasn't reading between the lines trying to find myself in someone else's fiction. I was the author now. And this was the last chapter I'd ever write with her in it. No revenge. No dramatic farewell. Just a closed door. And a life waiting on the other side. I grabbed my coat, stepped into the morning light, and walked past the book on the table the same way she'd walked past me day after day, thinking I hadn't noticed. She was wrong. I noticed everything. And now I'm the one turning the page.